Hello everyone, in this video I would like to talk about handling errors when running GraphQL queries and mutations with Apollo Client and React. First, let me briefly introduce the projects that I'm going to use for the examples. On the homepage I render a product, like for example a tutorial. The product has reviews and the user can leave a review like this in the form. Hello world, hit submit and the review appears in the list. This is a simple Next.js project with TypeScript. I set up a GraphQL API route for the backend and Apollo client on the front end. I based my setup on the example from the Next.js repo here in the examples folder. The example is called API routes Apollo server and client. The GraphQL API is served using the Next.js API route called GraphQL. I use Apollo server for the API. On the front end, I use Apollo client's React hooks to run queries and mutations. Let's open the homepage, and to get the product and reviews, I use the product and reviews query. I run the query using the useQuery hook from Apollo client. I have the GraphQL schema in type devs.ts. Here, this is the review type, the product type, the add review input type for the add review mutation, and two queries, product and reviews. I coded the resolvers for these queries and mutations in the resolvers.ts here. And the Apollo client setup logic is here in Apollo client.ts. Here we have the function that instantiates the Apollo client class. And in this file, we have the logic to handle different aspects of using Apollo client with Next.js. So let's handle those Apollo client errors. And let's start from the home page. Here we run the query to get the products and the reviews using the useQuery hook. From the object returned by this hook, we get the data and the loading state and render the data here. So first we check whether the query is loading, and then if the data is present, we render the product and the reviews. So one of the errors that can happen here is if the user loses the internet connection. Let's have a look at what actually happens in this case. Okay, I will open the DevTools, go to Network. Here I will go to About page. I will disable internet connection in the browser like this, offline. Then go back to the home page and the data is still here. Apollo client caches the results of the queries. And if the result of the query is in the cache, Apollo uses the cache to get the data. So to be able to demonstrate the lost internet connection error to you, I will go back to code and add an option here in the useQuery hook called fetchPolicy. The default is cache first. I will set it to network only. So every time I visit this page, Apollo client is going to refetch this query instead of using the cache. So let's go back to the browser. I will go back online, reload, go to the About page, disable internet connection in the browser, and go back to the home page. As you can see, the data hasn't been rendered. We see an empty page, and there are no warnings, and we don't know what is going on. So as the user of this app, I would get lost. I wouldn't know what has happened. Did the app break? So we at least should inform the user that something wrong has happened. A good idea would be to show a message to the user saying that an error occurred and, if possible, briefly explain why the error occurred. So let's go back to the code. And if the error occurs in useQuery, this hook returns the error property. And this error property should contain Apollo error object if an error occurs, or undefined otherwise. So let's handle the error. I will go to where I rendered the data, here, and after loading, I will check for the error. So if there is an error, tell the user that something wrong has happened, an error occurred. Okay, also let's log the error object to learn more about it. I will go back here and console log it. And repeat the procedure that caused the error. Okay, and now we have this general error message. An error occurred. Also, since we logged the error object, let's check it out. I will go to console, and this is the error object. Here it is. It has two interesting properties, the GraphQLErrors array. If an error occurs in a field resolver, we will get that error in this array. And we have the networkError property, which contains other kinds of errors that did not occur in the resolvers. Like, for example, if the user loses the internet connection, or a server responds with a 500 error code, like something went totally wrong. Let's use this information to generate a more detailed error message. Okay, here, let's say if there is an error, and if the error is a network error, let's tell the user that a network error occurred. Let's define the error message variable. Let's say, for example, a network error occurred. And otherwise, if it's not a network error, let's just say an error occurred. And now let's render this error message instead of this one. And let's say if error message. Let's check it out. Okay, I'll go online, reload, go to about, go offline, and go to the home page, and we've got a network error occurred message. Let me quickly show you another example of an error that Apollo categorizes as a network error. This is when we send an improperly formed request to the API. Let's go back to the code. And in here, where we generate the query, let's try to set the limit variable, which is described in the schema as a number. Let's set it to a string. TypeScript warns us that something wrong is here, but let's ignore it. I will go to the browser, go online, go to the home page, reload, and a network error occurred because we improperly formed the request. Here, the server responded with error 400. Here it is in the header, and the response is, the preview, errors, and variable limit got invalid value, string 2. So let's go ahead and provide the user with a more detailed network error message. I will fix this query. Let's use a number. And in here, we can distinguish between an internet connection error and other kinds of network errors. So if a user loses an internet connection, let's tell the user that there is no internet connection. And for any other errors, together with the errors that happen in the resolvers, the GraphQL errors, let's show a general error message, an error occurred. So in here, if it's a network error, and we can check whether the user is online by looking at window.navigator.online property. So first, let's check if the window is defined, because we can render this app both on the server and the client. So we can say type of window is not undefined, and window.navigator.online is false. Okay. Then we tell the user that, your browser is offline. And for any other error, we can say that an error occurred. Let's check this in the browser. I will reload the page, go to the About page, disable the internet connection, go to the home page, and here we are. Your browser is offline. I will turn the internet connection back on, here online. Okay, let's go back to the code and have a look at what are the other errors that we can catch here. What if an error occurs in the resolver on the server side? In other words, what if GraphQL error occurs? So I will open the resolvers, and in the product query, I will throw an error, like some error. Okay, reload. An error occurred. It's a general error message. I have logged the error, so let's check it out here. And this time the error is an element in the GraphQLErrors array. Okay, here it is. The interesting parts here are the extensions object, and here we can check the code, and we can have a look at the stack trace and the path property. This is the path to the field that generated the error. In this case, it's the product field of the product and reviews query on the homepage. Here, this field. So the error occurred in this field, but this field, the reviews, did not have an error. So if the error occurs in the product field and there is no error in the reviews field, why don't we show the reviews? Just to show something instead of discarding all the data. Here, if I go back to the network tab and check the query, the response, I can see that the product is null since there was an error, but the reviews are okay. We've got an empty array for the reviews. So if there were reviews, we would have got an array with those reviews. Also, I should note that this partial response from this query is possible because the product field can be null in the GraphQL schema. Let's go back to the code. Here in the schema, in type defs, I described the return value of the product field as product. And because I didn't add an exclamation mark here, the product can be null. If I added the exclamation mark here, the whole response of our query on the homepage here would have been lost on the server. Let me show this. Okay, if I reload the page now and check the result of the query, here the data is null. So I will go back to the schema and make the product optional. All right. Now let's go back to the homepage component and try to render the reviews even if the product has errored out. So I'll go down here, and in here we can clearly see that we cannot render the data if there is some error. Okay, so let's move the part that checks for loading and the error outside. In here. Okay. Now we should be able to see the reviews even though there is no product. I will reload the page and we don't see the reviews because the default behavior of Apollo client, if there is an error in the query, to discard all the data. So the data in our case, even though the server responded with reviews, the data is undefined. So how do we ask Apollo client to let us read some data that has actually been fetched? And this is what we've got the errorPolicy option for. So in the hook here, the useQuery hook, we can set this option, errorPolicy, to some value. The default value is none, meaning if a GraphQL error occurs in one of the fields, Apollo client discards all the data. So the data property becomes undefined, but it allows us to handle the error. The other option is called ignore. Here, Apollo client keeps the data and ignores the GraphQL errors. With this option enabled, we will see the partial data, but we won't see the errors. Here, I will reload the page, and here we are. The reviews are there. There is no product because there was an error, and there is no error message because Apollo didn't pass the GraphQL errors to us. So let's go back to the code and try the other option that is called all. At the moment, this is the recommended option for the error policy. With errorPolicy all, Apollo client keeps all the data it gets and all the errors. Let's open the browser. First I'll save the file. Okay, reload. We've got the error messages and we've got the partial data. We still don't see the product field. We don't see the product data because the product field has errored out. And to make this clearer to the user, let's say that we couldn't fetch the product data. Here, where I render the product, in here we can check if there is a product. We render it, otherwise we can say could not get the product data, for example. Okay, here we are. Also, if this error was expected, like we know that this error can happen, we can check the GraphQLErrors array, and if this specific error occurs, we can generate a specific error message. Let me show you how. I will go back to the code. Here, where we generate the error message, in the else block, I can map over the GraphQLErrors like this. So for const GQLError of error.GraphQLErrors. Then I can check the error's path. The path leads us to the field where the error occurs. Path can be undefined. So let's use optional chaining here and then join, because the path is an array of the parts of the path that we can join together to get the full path. Let's join them with the dot. And why do we have this as an array? It's because the fields can be nested. For example, in the product field, we can have a nested field to get the product's seller. And this field can have its own resolver. And if an error occurred in this field, the path would be product and then the seller. So the path will have two parts. So let's remove this example. And now you know why we have this array that we need to join with a dot. And then we can compare it to the product. Say, if this error happens in the product field, then let's set the error message to the message from the server. Okay, finally, we should show for any other error a general error message. For this, I'll check if we still didn't set the error message up to this point. We set it to a general error message. Okay, let's have a look at how this works. And we can see that the error from the server is shown in here. Now let's see what happens if a really bad error occurs on the server. I will open the Next.js API route for the GraphQL API. And in here where I create the API route handler using Apollo server, the Apollo server micro integration, I will first pass my own handler that accepts a request and a response. The request is of type next API request and response is of type next API response. From here, let's return the Apollo's handler and pass it the request and response. But before Apollo can even handle the request, let's throw an error. This is a bad error. Okay, this is gonna have the code 500 in the response. Reload. And we've got this general error message in the console. Let's check the error. And here it is. It's a network error, internal server error. So we looked at how we can handle different errors in the queries. Now let's have a look at the mutations. First, I will restore the original route handler. Now I will open the review form. Here it is. When the user submits the form, we run the add review mutation, providing it with the review input variable. We run the mutation using the mutation function that we get from the useMutation hook. Here, when the user submits the form, we call the mutation function with the form data. If the mutation succeeds, we call the onSuccess callback that we get through props from the parent component, from the page component. Basically, we use this callback to refetch the reviews on the home page. And then we call reset to clear the form inputs. Now let's see what happens if a network error occurs in this mutation. I will open the browser, reload the page. I will turn off the network, offline, and submit the form. Hello world. Okay, submit. And we get unhandled runtime error. Here in the console it's uncaught in promise error failed to fetch. This means that we didn't catch some error in some promise. And in our case, this promise is here the add review mutation. Here we await this mutation, but we don't handle the errors that it might throw. And in our case, when we had a network error, this mutation function threw this error in here, and we didn't catch it. So it's a good practice to wrap the await call in a try-catch block so we can catch the errors. So let's wrap it in a try-catch block. Okay, now we can handle the errors that the add review mutation function throws in the catch block. This is the error we get. In here, it's a good place to log the error to your error tracking service, like for example Sentry. I will just log it to the console. Also, you can read the error from the second element of the tuple returned by the useMutation hook here. It's an object, and from this object you can extract the error like this. So the error, if it occurs, it's Apollo error object. So we can use this error object to generate the error message, like we did for the home page. Basically, we can reuse the error message code from the home page. Here, I will copy it and paste it here. Let's define the error message. And remove the part of the code not related to this component. Okay. Let's show this error message somewhere. I will show it in the upper part of the form. Okay, let's check the network error now. I'm offline, so I will go back online, reload the page, go offline again. Now I will try to submit a review. The error message should appear here. I will enter the name and the review, press submit, and the error is here. Sorry, your browser is offline. For the other kinds of errors, including network errors, we should see a general error message. Now let's see what happens if an error occurs in the resolver. I will open the resolver's file. First, I will remove the error from the product resolver and throw an error in the add review resolver. Okay, let's see. I will turn the network on and try to submit the review again. And I've got a general error message. This is what I expected. On the backend, if we use Apollo server, we can throw different predefined errors, like for example UserInputError. To show you an example, I will add a simple form validation on the backend. Also, I would like to mention that if you would like to add form validation, you shouldn't rely on validating user input on the client side only, because somebody can send requests directly to your API without using your user interface. So if I wanted to validate the form data, I would do it on the server side first, and then use the same validation rules I used on the server side on the client side as well. So for this example, I will add the form validation on the server. Here in the resolver, in the add review resolver, let's remove the error. Now I will add a simple validation. The name and text properties should not be empty. So I will first check the name. If the name is empty, and I will also check the text. Okay, I would like to store error messages together with the corresponding properties, because in the user interface I would like to show the error messages next to the corresponding form fields. So I will store the error messages in an array. Let's describe the array. For each message I need to store the corresponding property, so I will use an object with property, which is a string, and the message. Okay, and it should be an array of these objects. Okay. Now if the name is empty, let's push the error here. Property name and the message. Please enter your name. Let's do the same for the text. Please enter your review. Now let's check if there are errors. If errors length, then let's throw a predefined error called UserInputError. This error class is provided by the Apollo server. The first argument is the error message, invalid input. And we can use the second argument, which is an object, to pass some additional data with the error to the client. And in this case, I will pass the errors array. There are other predefined errors that you can throw, for example, authentication error or forbidden error. Please check the documentation to learn how to use them. These error classes tell Apollo server to set specific error codes in the response, so on the client we can easily distinguish between different kinds of errors and handle them appropriately. Let me show you. I will check the definition of this class. Here it is. The error code is going to be bad user input. Now I will go to the review form and handle the user input error. I will use the React hook forms functionality to show the errors next to the form fields. Here I use React hook form. And from the use form hook, I would like to get the errors map. This is where we can store the errors for the fields, and the set error function to be able to set error messages for the fields. Okay. Now, when the server returns the user input error from the add review mutation, we should parse this error and set the error message for each field using the set error function. We shouldn't call the set error function while rendering because it produces a side effect. So let's handle the error in the catch block here. In the catch block, the error is initially any here. So we need to use a type guard to make sure that we are working with an Apollo error. So I'll type if, and then we have a utility function from the Apollo client called isApolloError. Here we pass the error. And inside of this block, the error is going to be Apollo error. So in here, let's loop over the GraphQL errors. Okay, let's check the error code. The code belongs to the extensions object. Extensions object can be undefined, so let's use optional chaining and read the code. And for the user input error, the code should be bad user input. Let me check quickly. Yes. Okay. Together with the code, we've got the errors array that we have added when we threw the error in the resolver. It's also part of the extensions object. To be sure, let's check if the errors from extensions is an array. Errors is array. Okay. Now let's go through each error. Let's call the error field error. And call the setError function from React hook form to set the error for the corresponding field. Property is the field name, and we set the message in an object, message. We have an object here because we can set some other options for the error, but let's just set the message dot message. Okay. Now I would like to mention that the GraphQL errors array should contain one error per requested GraphQL field. For example, in our add review mutation that we defined here, we have only one GraphQL field. This is the add review field. So the GraphQL errors array in our case should contain at most one error, and it's the error from the add review mutation field. I cannot imagine the case when for one GraphQL field we get two errors at the same time. Now let's render the errors for the fields. Here, for the name field, if errors name, then render the message. Name.message. And let's add the same message for the review field. Here, errors text. We show the error message for the text field. Okay, now let's check this out. I will submit an empty review. And here are our messages. Please enter your name and please enter your review. Great. Now let's go further and show the top level error message here. Instead of this general error message and error occurred, we will show the error message from the server, which says invalid input. Okay. So in this component, at the moment, we handle the errors in two places, here in the catch block and in here, where we generate the error message. Let's move this part to the catch block, so all the error handling logic is contained in one place, here. To accomplish this, we should define the error message using the state. Basically, we should store the error message in the component's state. So let's use the useState hook for this. It can be a string, should be a string, error message, and set error message. Okay. Let's call set error message here instead of assigning to a variable. Okay, and same here. Good. Now let's get rid of this error check, because we already know that an error occurred, and this time we refer to the error using the E here from here. So if the user is offline, we show this message. Otherwise, let's handle other kinds of errors. So let's move all of this inside of is Apollo error check, because in here we are working with Apollo error. And let's move this for block. Oops, took too much here. To the else statement. Okay. So if it's a validation error, let's show the main message from this error, which is GraphQLError.message. It's the invalid input message from the resolver, from here, this one. For any other kind of error, let's show a general error message. At the moment we set the error message here. Let's copy it or cut it. And we should set it in a different place. Because in this catch block here, we should account not only for the Apollo error, but also for other errors that can be thrown in other parts of the try block. Like for example on success function or reset. So we should set this message outside of the Apollo error check here. And we should show it under a condition that we didn't show another error message already. That we didn't show this error message or this one. So let's create a flag. Let's call it message shown. And set it here where we show the first message, true, and also set it to true in here when we show the messages for the validation, somewhere here, true, and finally in here let's check if the message was not shown, we will show it like a general error message. Let's check this. I will submit the form with empty values. Submit. Please enter your review. Please enter your name and the top level message invalid input. Great. And for another kind of error, let's go offline. Submit. And sorry, your browser is offline. Great. I will go back online. Okay. Now let's do something different. Apollo client allows us to process the errors that occur in the queries and mutations that we run using it in a single place. For this, we need to add a link when instantiating the Apollo client. The link is called Apollo link error. So let's go ahead and set it up. I will open the file where the client is set up here. And together with the link for running queries and mutations, we should register the error link. To create the error link, we can use the onError function from the Apollo client link error package. Okay. Let's create the error link. This function takes a callback that receives the error information as an object. And in this object we have various properties, and the interesting properties at the moment are networkError and GraphQLErrors. These properties are familiar, we've worked with them already. Now let's register the error link in here. To register multiple links, we should combine them, and to combine the links, we can use the from utility function from Apollo client. This one. Okay, then I say from, then array, and the first link should be the error link, in our case at least. And the second link is this one. Okay, now I would like to log the errors to the console. First, let's log the GraphQL errors. We can unpack the properties we need from the GraphQLError object, like this. Message, locations, and path. Actually, here I'm using the example from the Apollo client documentation. So I will log the GraphQL errors like this. Okay, and let's log the network errors. Okay. Also, I think the network error is quite common to many queries and resolvers, so I would like to generate and show the messages about network errors from here in a single place, instead of generating the messages for the network errors everywhere we run a query or mutation. Let's copy the code for generating network error message from, for example, the review form. Here it is. Go back. Let's paste the code here. We don't need this part. Okay, let's notify the user using an alert box. Okay. If a network error occurred because of any other reason, let's show a general error message. Some other network error occurred. Okay. Now that we display the network error message from the error link, we don't need to generate and show this message everywhere we run a query or mutation, so I will fix this. First, let me handle the review form. I will remove this part. Okay. Looks good. Also, let's open the home page and remove the network error from here. And here we should check that it's not a network error. Okay, I think we should do the same in the review form. Here, basically we can say if it's a network error, then just return it. We don't need to log the errors here anymore because we log them on the top level. Here let's check if it's a network error. And actually, let's check it here. If network error, we shouldn't log this error. Message shown is equal to false. Or, sorry, it should be true. Okay, now let's try this approach. I will turn off the network and try to submit the form. And this is our alert message. Sorry, your browser is offline. Great. Let's see what happens if we get a network error in a query. I will turn the network on, go to About, disable the network, and go to the home page. Sorry, your browser is offline. So I handled the network errors on another level. Okay, and it's empty here, so maybe we should still show the error message on the index page like this, error, and do the same in the review form, just show a general error message together with the error message in the alert box. So I will go online, reload, go to About, disable network, go home, and this is our alert box. Okay, and an error occurred. I think this looks better. There are more things that you can do with the Apollo link error. Please check the documentation to learn more about it. You can find the documentation here. It's Apollo GraphQL. Here, then developers, docs, Apollo client React, and let's look for Apollo link error. Or just error, here error link. And you can check this page to learn more about the error link. That's it. If you played with the network throttling option, make sure that you turn the network back on. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked the tutorial, hit the like button and subscribe. Have a nice day and see you next time.